Good afternoon to all. And in the last class we discussed about the characters of kingdom Monera and three groups of bacteria: Archaebacteria, Cyanobacteria and true bacteria. And the characters of true bacteria, what are the positive and negative effect of bacteria to human beings, and how bacteria reproduce by binary fission. And mycoplasmas are the smallest group of prokaryotic organisms without a cell wall. They cause diseases in coconut plants like witch's brew, etc. we discussed. We can see the next kingdom, second kingdom, that is called kingdom Protista. Kingdom Protista, second group of organisms. According to Whittaker, the second group of organisms originated in the universe are kingdom Protista. Earlier it is called as Protozoa. First animal character comes under kingdom Protista. And remember that this is a special group of kingdom which include different types of organisms. And the basic character is similar, but they include 5 groups of organisms are coming under kingdom Protista, and it is somewhat confusing for you. So listen carefully the video twice or thrice, otherwise you cannot follow the lesson. I am giving important points on the blackboard. You can take down that and you can write the notes later on. See the kingdom Protista, as you know, this include all are eukaryotic organisms. So there are eukaryotic organism. You know what is meaning of eukaryotic organism? They are with the nucleus and clear membrane bound organelles. Developed type of cell, new type of cell are called prokaryotic cells. And so they are all eukaryotic organism with the nucleus and membrane bound organelles. Example amoeba, paramecium, etc. comes under this group. And remember that another point is that all the organisms are, most of them are aquatic in nature. Aquatic. What is the meaning of aquatic? Living in water. Aquatic means living in water. And there may be, many of them are living in fresh water, and many of them are living in salt water. We call it as marine. Fresh water means living in pond, river, etc. fresh water. And salt water means, marine means salt water, living in salt water. For example, amoeba is a freshwater organism, but paramecium is a marine organism. Like that, differences are there, freshwater or marine. And third point, you remember that most of them are moving with the cilia, or some are moving with the flagella, some are moving with the pseudopodia like amoeba, and some are non-motile. Different characters will come regarding their motility. Some amoeba, they are moving with the pseudopodia. You know pseudopodia. When euglena move with the flagella, paramecium move with the cilia, and some are slime molds are non-motile. So different types of characters are coming under that group. And another point is that they may be, many of them are autotrophs and some are heterotrophs. They may be autotrophs or heterotrophs. You remember, all these are the general characters that may differ from organism to organism. So Protista, the characters are, they include eukaryotic organism. And you remember that they are all organisms, they are all unicellular. They are all unicellular organism. What is the meaning of unicellular? Unicellular eukaryotic organisms are coming under Protista. So unicellular means with a single cell in the body. Almost all of them are with a single cell in the body. So these are the general characters of kingdom Protista. Then see, these are all important points. They are eukaryotic organism. They are unicellular organism. They are aquatic, freshwater, marine, cilia, flagella, pseudopodia, or maybe non-motile without any structures. They may be autotrophs or heterotrophs. See, come to the Next group, this kingdom Protista is divided into 5 groups. Divided into 5 groups are there. And first group comes Chrysophytes. 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 A group of organisms are called Chrysophytes. And see, remember that these Chrysophytes, each and every group have their own characters. So I will explain in few words, simply, main points only. You refer the text for more details. And Chrysophytes are usually include golden algae and diatoms. See, 2 groups of organisms coming under this group are golden algae and diatoms are coming under this group. Golden algae, golden colored algae and diatoms. And see, all of them are photosynthetic. All are producing food material by photosynthetic, or all are autotrophic organisms. Then there may be different colors are available. Different colors are available and most of them are most of them are photosynthetic organisms. All of them are photosynthetic, and these golden algae and diatoms, they are floating on the surface of water. They are called as phytoplanktons. See, it's an important term for you, phytoplanktons. See, phyto means plants. Phyto means plant. Plankton means floating organisms. Floating means remaining on the surface of water, moving freely on the surface of water. You remember that these algae, golden algae diatoms, they are unicellular. They are weightless. So they are living in water. So on the ocean, they are remaining on the surface of water. They are remaining on the surface of water. Because they are weightless. So they are not going down in water. They are very small organisms. So they always remain on the surface of water, or they are floating on the surface of plankton means floating, F-L-O-A-T-I-N-G. Floating, remaining on the surface of water. So these unicellular algae diatoms, they are remaining on the surface of water, floating on the surface of water. They are called phytoplanktons. So phytoplanktons means they are important for you, unicellular algae and diatoms coming under the Chrysophytes. They are very small unicellular organisms. So they remain on the water surface. They are floating on the water surface of the ocean. They are called phytoplanktons. And these phytoplanktons are very important ecologically because they are the main producers of ocean. See, they are the main producers of the ocean because they produce food material by the process of photosynthesis. And this food, they prepare large amount of food material by photosynthesis. It is estimated that of the total photosynthesis, 80% of the global photosynthesis is done by phytoplanktons. See, the total photosynthesis occurring in the world per day, one day, the 80% is done by these unicellular phytoplanktons in the ocean. So you can say that more than 4 times more than the plants. Total plants are doing photosynthesis. 4 times more than that is done by the phytoplanktons in the ocean. So in the ocean, it is completely, surface is completely occupied by the phytoplanktons. So the phytoplanktons they produce food by photosynthesis. They are the main producers of the ocean ecosystem. You might have heard about the word called producer, consumer, decomposer. So in the ocean, they absorb sunlight and prepare food material and they supply food for other living organisms. So of the total photosynthesis taking place in the world, 80% is done by these small microorganisms in the ocean called as phytoplanktons. So they remember that phytoplanktons are very important. They produce food material by photosynthesis. Another importance is that by photosynthesis they produce oxygen. Okay, remember that oxygen is very important for life activity. Without life oxygen we cannot survive. So the earth produces large amount of oxygen, earth requires large amount of oxygen. So by photosynthesis they prepare food material and these phytoplanktons will produce oxygen and reach to the atmosphere. So they are the main organisms which produce oxygen in the atmosphere. Further, they absorb carbon dioxide. You remember that atmosphere is filled by carbon dioxide. And you might have heard about a process called global warming. See, you might have heard about a word called global warming. The temperature of the earth will increase day by day. That process is called global warming. And what is the reason for that? The amount of carbon dioxide increases in the atmosphere by our activity, human activity. There is no other mechanism to absorb carbon dioxide. There is no process which can absorb carbon dioxide, but plants can only absorb carbon dioxide. So if you are planting the trees, they will absorb carbon dioxide and reduce the carbon dioxide concentration of the atmosphere. So it is very important globally. So carbon dioxide increases, what happens? The temperature of the earth will increase by the process of global warming. So plants absorb carbon dioxide. More than that, these phytoplanktons of the ocean absorb carbon dioxide for the process of photosynthesis. So what is the result? If they absorb more carbon dioxide, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere decreases, which reduces the process of global warming. So phytoplanktons are very important in the nature. So what are phytoplanktons? Discuss their importance. So what are phytoplanktons? Can say that unicellular algae and diatoms which are floating on the surface of ocean are called as phytoplanktons. And what is their importance? They produce food by photosynthesis. They produce oxygen by photosynthesis. They absorb carbon dioxide and reduce the process of global warming. So 3 points are there. It's a question carrying 2 marks. What are phytoplanktons? Write notes on phytoplanktons. I think it is clear for you. So 3 importance are there, phytoplanktons. Then another importance is that the cell wall of diatoms. See, cell wall of diatoms are made up of silica and calcium carbonate. See, the cell wall of diatoms. Diatoms are floating on the surface of water. They are photosynthetic. The cell is covered by cell wall. You know, cell wall. Plant cell is covered by a paring called cell wall. The cell wall of diatoms are like a soap box. Diatom means a type of organisms coming under the group are called chrysophytes are called as diatoms. Diatom means unicellular or algae. The cell wall is important. Cell wall is like a soap box. See, cell wall of diatoms is like a soap box. So the cell wall of diatoms is like a soap box. And what is the important soap box? A small piece and covered by a large piece. 2 pieces are there. Soap box. So smaller one and upper one, larger one. So and this cell wall is made up of 2 substances. Silica. Cell wall is made up of cellulose and cell wall is made up of cellulose in plants and it is deposited with the silica and calcium carbonate. So this is deposited with silica and calcium carbonate. See, silica and calcium carbonate. So the cell wall is very hard in appearance. Cell wall is very hard by presence of silica and calcium carbonate. You know, the shell of mollusca is made up of calcium carbonate. The shell of mollusca is made up of calcium carbonate, white in color. So similarly, the cell wall of diatoms are made up of cellulose. It is deposited with the silica and calcium carbonate. So it is very hard in appearance. And what happens after the death of diatoms? This cell wall is sinking down to the bottom of the ocean. See, they remain on the surface of water. After the death, what happens? The cell wall is very hard. It will not be destroyed. So what happens? The cell wall go downwards in the ocean, down and sink in the bottom of the ocean and become a deposit bottom of the ocean. So if you are going downwards, this cell wall is very hard in appearance because of the presence of silicon cell wall. So death of the diatoms occur. They are unicellular. After the death, what happens? The cytoplasm nucleus may be destroyed, but the cell wall is very hard. So we are very dopey in the ocean. They are sitting in the bottom of the ocean and they become huge mountain-like structure, the bottom of the ocean like that. See, they are deposited at the bottom of the ocean and they are very hard in appearance. And this large deposit of diatom is called as diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth. See, large deposit of cell wall of diatom. So after the death, what happens? The cell wall is going downwards, bottom of the ocean, and they become large mass like a mountain at the bottom of the ocean. And this is called that huge deposit of large mountain-like structure of diatom cell wall is called diatomaceous earth. And it is very important industrially. For various industries, this material is used for making polish, shoe polish, etc. Then it is used for making filters. You know, filter paper, like filters for filtering syrup, oil. The medicine industry, medicines are filtered, oils are filtered. They are using for making polishes, shoe polish or polish materials, and they are used for filtering industries in oil industry and medicine industry for making filter for filtering medicines. So diatomaceous earth is very important. A question carrying 2 marks. So what is diatomaceous earth? So you have to write like that. The cell wall of diatom is made up of cellulose. It is deposited with silica and calcium carbonate. So it is very hard in appearance. After the death of diatom, they are sinking down to the bottom of the ocean and becoming a large deposit that is called diatomaceous earth, and very hard in appearance, and is used for making polish and filters. That is about the 2 points are there. 2 questions will come. First of all, what are phytoplanktons? Discuss their importance. What are diatomaceous earth? Write its importance. So both are important questions. So write notes on chrysophytes. A question carrying 3 or 4 marks. You have to write all the things, important things you have to write. Remember, phytoplanktons and diatomaceous earth. Example, golden algae and diatoms. I think it's clear for you. Then comes the, so first group is chrysophyte. Then second group comes dinoflagellate. See, second group comes, dinoflagellate. So dinoflagellate, you know the meaning, dinoflagellate. See, what is the meaning of that? They are organisms with 2 flagella. Dinoflagellate. Di means 2. Dinoflagellate. And this of these 2 flagella, so I can represent an example like that. An organism with like that, unicellular organism with nucleus. Dinoflagellate. 1 flagella like that. Flagella is a structure for movement. Whip-like structure for movement. See, 1 flagella like that. 1 flagella around the cell. See, 1 flagella around the cell, covering the cell. So 2 flagella. 1 is longitudinal. Longitudinal means lengthwise, like longer. And another flagella is around the coiling around the cell. 2 flagella. 1 long flagella, 1 round flagella around the cell. 2 flagella are present. So organisms with all organisms coming under this group, thousands of organisms are there. All are with 2 flagella, so they are called dinoflagellate. And this so you write that they are organisms with 2 flagella, and most of them are marine, living in salt water, marine. And of the 2 organs, they may be red, blue, brown or green color. Different colors are there. Different colors are available. All are photosynthetic. All are photosynthetic. They produce food mine, photosynthesis. They are all photosynthetic organisms. They are autotrophic organisms. So dinoflagellates are also like that, two flagella, and they are photosynthetic organisms. Different colors are there. Red, blue, brown, blue colors are available. Different colors are available. And these organisms are usually present at the surface of the ocean. They are floating on the surface of the ocean. They are usually moving with the flagella. They are motile. They are moving with the flagella. They are remaining on the surface of ocean. They are remaining on the surface of water. And see, they are photosynthetic. And in presence of sunlight, if sunlight is available, they come to the surface of the ocean. And some examples like Gonialex. See, some examples are there. G-O-N-Y-A. See, examples are there like Gonialex. One example coming under the dinoflagellate is Gonialex. And this Gonialex is red in color. And when the sunlight is available, the Gonialex will come above the surface of the ocean. They absorb the sunlight and they reproduce very fastly. So what happens? The surface of the ocean appears red in color because of the overgrowth of this alga like Gonialex. Surface of the ocean will appear red in color. That phenomena is called as red tide. That phenomena by which the surface of the ocean, color of the ocean appears red in color. Why? Because of the overgrowth of alga like Gonialex. Gonialex is an example for dinoflagellate. This alga red in color. When sunlight is maximum, they come to the surface of the ocean and absorb the sunlight and reproduce very fastly, multiply very fastly. So what happens? After a few days, the surface of the ocean appears red in color because of the overgrowth of this alga like Gonialex. So surface of the ocean appears red in color. That phenomena, that process is called a red tide. Red color. Surface of the ocean become red color. And what is the importance of that? This red tide produce poisons. And this alga produce poison. Poisonous alga. So what happens? When they produce poison, it will kill other organisms of the ocean. So this red tide is highly dangerous to other living organisms because they produce poison, and poison is released in water, so it will kill other living organisms. So overgrowth of red alga or Gonialex is called red tide. It is very important because it will produce poison and release poison to the surface of the water, by which it will kill other living organisms. So that's about the second group of organisms called as dinoflagellate. Organisms with the two flagella are called dinoflagellate. One long flagella went around the cell. Marine organisms, different colors are available. They are photosynthetic. They are moving with the flagella and they are remaining on the surface of the ocean, and they will reproduce very fastly like Gonialex. So the color of the ocean become red in color. It is called a red tide, and this release poison to the water and will kill other aquatic organisms. That is about the second group called the dinoflagellate. For more you take refer the textbook. I think it's clear for you. Important points are given in the blackboard. You can take down when you are listening the class. Then comes to next group of organisms called as euglenoids. Third group of organisms are called as euglenoids. Third group of organisms called as euglenoids. Third group are called as euglenoids. Euglenoids means typical example is Euglena. I think you studied your school syllabus regarding the character of Euglena. Euglenoids are Euglena-like organisms are called euglenoids. They are called euglenoids. And these euglenoids are having two flagella. They are moving by flagella. Euglena-like organisms are called as euglenoids. And this will come and see, these euglenoids are, most of them are freshwater. They are with the freshwater organisms living in pond or like, and with the euglenoids, you know, even diagram of euglena, you know, euglenoids, euglena-like organisms with the two flagella, two flagella present. They are called euglenoids, euglena-like organisms. And cell is covered by a covering called protein covering called pellicle. See, cell wall is absent and is covering by a protein covering called a pellicle. These kind of organisms with the two flagella, euglena-like organisms are coming under the group called euglenoids. They are photosynthetic freshwater organisms, and most of them are photosynthetic. All of them are autotrophic or photosynthetic organisms. Photosynthetic organisms are coming under the euglenoids. And most of them are producing food by photosynthesis. And you remember that they are the main producers of ocean. And remember that of the two flagella, one is longer and another is somewhat shorter. Two flagella are not similar. One flagella is longer, another flagella is shorter. This is the long flagella and this is the short flagella. Two types of flagella occur for this organic, long and another short flagella. Two flagella occur for these organisms called euglenoids. And remember that there are photosynthetic organisms and the cell wall is covered by a covering called pellicle. Pellicle is there and covering the cell, not cell wall. This is covered by pellicle and they have pigment chlorophyll. They prepare food by photosynthesis in presence of sunlight. And remember that they prepare food in presence of sunlight only. And they come when sunlight is present, they come to the surface of the ocean and absorb sunlight and prepare food by photosynthesis. And in the absence of sunlight, you remember that in the absence of sunlight, when there is no sunlight, they cannot prepare food material. They will lose the flagella and they sink bottom to the ocean and absorb food from dead organic matter and act as decomposers or saprophytes. See, one organism. Remember that in the living world, euglenoids are very important. They are showing double life, dual life. They are showing, preparing, they are behaving like plants, autotrophs and heterotrophs. One organism. See, euglena is one organism. It prepares food by photosynthesis. A plant character. And it moves very fastly with the help of flagella, animal character, and it absorbs food from dead organic matter, fungus character. You remember that one organism in the living world showing the character of plants, animals and fungus. So this is a special group of organisms coming under the kingdom Protista. One organism showing three types of life. In presence of sunlight, how they behave? In presence of sunlight, they prepare food by photosynthesis. And they move very fastly with the flagellas like animals. And in the absence of sunlight, they will lose the flagella, they will sink bottom to the ocean and absorb food from dead organic matter like decomposers or fungus. So it is an interesting group of organisms called as euglenoids or euglena-like organisms are very interesting group of organisms showing both plants, animals and fungus like. Such organisms, euglena-like organisms are called euglenoids. Remember that the body is not covered by cell wall, it is covered by pellicle made up of a protein. See, next comes to the next group of organisms. Fourth group of organisms coming under the kingdom Protista, they are called as slime mouse, S-L-I-M-E. Fourth group of organisms are called slime mouse. See, these are complicating for you. So listen the video very carefully because I cannot explain more than that in this type of classes. So listen very carefully. Fourth group of organisms are called as slime mouse. A special group of organisms. Such organisms are the first appearing multicellular organisms of the nature. They are totally 100% they are saprophytes or 100% they are decomposers. They are 100% decomposers like fungus. They cannot prepare food by photosynthesis. They have no color, they have no chlorophyll, they are not autotrophic. They are getting food from dead organic matter, or they are called saprophytes or saprotrophs or decomposers. And what is their body? What is the appearance of body? And the body, saprophytes, they are decomposers. They have no cilia, flagella. So what is their body? Structure of the body. A multinucleated protoplasm. See, this is just for your information. A mass of protoplasm with numerous nuclei. See, mass of protoplasm with numerous nuclei. Multinucleated protoplasm. The body consists of multinucleated. You know what is the meaning of multinucleated? Numerous nucleus. Multinucleated protoplasm. The body consists of multinucleated protoplasm. Protoplasm with the numerous nuclei. Multinucleated protoplasm. There is no cell wall, there is no cell membrane, but numerous nuclei. Protoplasm is a jelly-like substance, gum-like substance. See, protoplasm is a jelly-like substance. So it is a multinucleated protoplasm. Numerous nuclei are present in the protoplasm. So it is a mass of this structure, mass of the slime mold consists of, there is no cell wall, there is no nucleus, but the multinucleated protoplasm is the body of slime molds. Body of slime mold is like that, and have no chlorophyll. They cannot prepare food by photosynthesis. They are saprophytes or decomposers. And this multinucleated protoplasm spreading out. Suppose what happens, a drop of blood keeping on the surface, what happens? It will spread like that. So this multinucleated protoplasm spreading over the surface is called as, they are called as plasmodium. This is called as plasmodium. See, mass of multinucleated protoplasm spreading over the surface is called as plasmodium. If you are keeping the mass of protoplasm gum on the surface, what happens? If you are keeping a drop of gum on the surface, what happens? It will spread like that, because it is a jelly-like substance. So protoplasm, this plasmodium, usually present on the dead leaf or any material, it is spreading on that. It will be moving like a spreading material. This multinucleated protoplasm, gum-like protoplasm is called plasmodium. Plasmodium. Another plasmodium is there. Remember that there is a parasite called Plasmodium vivax which causes malaria, and this is a plasmodium. What is plasmodium? The answer is that the multinucleated protoplasm of slime mold is called plasmodium. It is spreading over surface and decomposing, absorbing food from dead organic matter. And under favorable conditions, it is spreading, moving on materials, spreading on dead organic materials. But when conditions become unfavorable, conditions become dry, if there is no water, what happens? It will develop around a covering. It will develop a protective covering. This protective covering is called, it will develop a covering called cyst, and it is developing into a cyst formation, and this structure is now called as spore, S-P-O-R-E. It will develop a thick covering around that and is called a spore. When conditions become unfavorable, dry conditions, this mass of protoplasm will dry up. You know that there is no water, this gum-like structure will dry up. So to protect that, it will develop a covering around that. That covering is called a cyst, and this with the covering, now this is called as what? Spore. The plasmodium changes into spore when the conditions become dry or unfavorable. When again conditions become favorable, this will break. The cyst covering will break, and this protoplasm will come out again as plasmodium. So there are two stages for slime molds. When conditions are favorable, it will be spreading like a mass of protoplasm or jelly-like substance. When conditions become unfavorable, it will develop a covering around that and transform into what? Spore. to escape from unfavorable conditions. So these organisms are, slime molds are totally different types of organism. They are 100% saprophytes or decomposers or heterotrophs, can't prepare food by photosynthesis. You remember that slime molds, mass of protoplasm is called a plasmodium. Then comes to fifth group of organisms called as, and the fifth group of organisms coming under this group are called as protozoans. And see, the fifth group comes protozoans. This protozoans is a Latin word. You remember that it can be divided into two parts. Proto means first, zoan means animals. So first animals are called protozoans. During the course of evolution, true animal character comes by this. This is the origin of first type of animals during the course of evolution. Protozoans, first animals. And you remember that they are all heterotrophs. These protozoans are, all the protozoans are heterotrophs. Can't prepare food by photo. They are all heterotrophs. H-E-T-E-R-O. They are all heterotrophic organisms. Cannot prepare food by photosynthesis. And this, they are the first animals. They are called as protozoans. And include 5 groups. And 5 groups are coming under that. First of all, amoeboid protozoans. Amoeboid protozoans. Amoeboid protozoan means amoeba-like organisms. You may remember amoeba-like organisms are coming under amoeboid protozoans. And they are moving with the help of pseudopodia. You know, amoeba move with the help of pseudopodia. False leg, pseudopodia. You may remember amoeba is like that. And these kind of structures are called pseudopodia, and it is used for movement. Amoeba move by pseudopodia. Cell is covered by cell membrane. Cell body is absent. You know, it takes food into the body. You study in your school syllabus. It takes food into the body by pinocytosis and phagocytosis. So amoeba-like organisms, they are freshwater. They are moving in freshwater, pond or lake. These amoeba-like organisms are called amoeboid protozoan. Amoeba-like protozoan. Example, amoeba. And many of them are living in fresh water, and many of them are parasites. And remember that there is an organism called Endamoeba histolytica. Parasites are there, and they are eating food like animals. Usually animals, they are taking food into the body like animals, amoeba-like organisms. And there is an example there called Endamoeba histolytica. Parasite is there, Entamoeba histolytica. There is an example for that cause dysentery and spreading through water. You know that during the rainy season, fever and dysentery occur, and that is by Entamoeba histolytica. There is a parasite living in our body and spreading through water and causing dysentery during the rainy season. So like that, amoeba, Entamoeba. Amoeba is living in fresh water, not a parasite. Endamoeba is a parasite causing dysentery in human beings. Then comes the second group called flagellated protozoans. Flagellated protozoan. What is the meaning of that? Protozoan with the flagella. Flagella is a structure for movement. So flagellated protozoans are called organism with the flagella. Organism with the flagella. Flagellated protozoans are coming under. Examples are there. For example, Trypanosoma pallidum. So example is there. Then another example for that is called Trypanosoma. Trypanosoma is a parasite which causes a disease called sleeping sickness. There is a disease called sleeping sickness. It is more seen in Africa, so called as African sleeping sickness. It's a parasite. So flagellated protozoan, example Trypanosoma pallidum, that cause sleeping sickness. A parasite which cause sleeping sickness. This cause dysentery, Entamoeba histolytica. So flagellated protozoans are the second group of organisms, Trypanosoma pallidum. And ciliated protozoans. Next comes the third group called ciliated protozoans. Ciliated protozoans. Protozoan with the cilia. Ciliated protozoans with the cilia. Example, Paramecium. Typical example is Paramecium. Paramecium. You know paramecium, like a structure like that. Sole of a slipper. Paramecium is like that. Paramecium. Typical animal character, paramecium. And the body is covered by hair-like structures. These hair-like structures are called what? Hair-like structures are called cilia for movement. And see, have two nuclei. One large nucleus called macronucleus and small nucleus called micronucleus. An animal with a pure animal character. Both nucleus, macronucleus and micronucleus, and have a small mouth-like structure. See, this is an animal with a small mouth-like structure. This mouth-like structure is called gullet, G-E, gullet. And having these kind of structures, having contractile vacuoles are there. So, this amoeba, paramecium-like organisms are called as ciliated protozoans. With this structure is called what? This structure is called cilia, C-I-L-A-A, cilia for movement. Cilia-like organisms, ciliated organisms are called paramecium-like organism is called ciliated protozoans. Example, paramecium is a typical example. Then comes to the fourth group organisms coming under this group are called as sporozoans. Fourth group are called sporozoans. Spore producing animals are called sporozoans. Sporozoan. Zoan means animal. Sporozoan. Spore producing animals are called sporozoan. And these organisms are totally parasite. 100% are totally called parasite. For example, the organisms called as Plasmodium vivax. You see, Plasmodium vivax. Plasmodium vivax. Plasmodium vivax, which cause malaria, is called as malarial parasite. It's an example. So, four groups are there coming under the protozoans. Protozoa, first animals, amoeboid protozoan, amoeba-like protozoans moving with the pseudopodia causing dysentery, flagellate protozoans with the flagella, example trypanosoma causing African sleeping sickness, ciliated protozoan like paramecium with the cilia, macronucleus, mouthless structure called gullet, etc. Then sporozoan, spore producing animals are called parasite Plasmodium vivax, which cause malaria. And malarial parasite, you know, it is completely parasite in our body causing malaria, and the malaria is spread from one person to another person. Why? How the malaria can be spread? It is caused by mosquito. Which mosquito? Female Anopheles mosquito, spreading disease from malaria from one person to another person. So the Plasmodium vivax is a parasite living in our body. 50% of the life living in our body, half of the life living in the body of mosquito. 50% of the life in our body, 50% in the body of mosquito. Dual host is required for completing the life. So anyhow, remember that, write notes on four groups of protozoans. Amoeboid protozoan, flagellated protozoan, ciliated protozoan and sporozoan. With the example, I just given three examples. One, dysentery, sleeping sickness and causing malaria. So this is very important for you. Movement is different. This is moving by how? Moving by pseudopodia, it is moving by flagella, it is moving by cilia, and it is non-motile, without moving. So characters are there. So we complete the second kingdom called as Protista. Very important and confusing for you. First group called Chrysophytes. Then comes dinoflagellate, then comes euglenoids, then comes slime moulds, and come protozoans. 5 groups are there. You listen very carefully, write the notes from blackboard as a teaching note, and you complete the notes and read twice or thrice. Important terms are there. First of all, phytoplanktons are important. Diatomaceous earth is important. Red tide is important. Continuously asking question, red tide. Then the life of euglenoids are very important. Then these 4 groups are very important. Okay, you complete that. Then we can go to the next class. We will go to the next chapter, next topic called third kingdom called Kingdom Fungus. Very separate group of organisms. Okay, thank you.